Welcome to No Man's Sky, Diamant here, and the Voyager update has dropped, and with it we get modular shipbuilding. So these are corvettes that you can construct any way that you like using parts that you're going to salvage from the planets. Now, I know a lot of people with an update like this are going to be starting a brand new save, myself included, so I thought I would jump in with a few tips just to make the early game progression a little bit easier. And the first thing I'll point out now that we're at the starport is that the new modules, if you're not using them for your ship, now let me switch over to the ship inventory. If you're not using them to install and customize your ship, they're kind of worth a fortune. Not all of these, some of these are just generic pieces that I purchased for credits from the vendor over there, but some of them are not. Like this Thunderbird class landing bay is worth 800,000. That's something I just looted off of the planet. So you're gonna find a lot of these modules and you can actually turn around and sell some of them for actually a lot of money, and these are things that you can't buy just off the basic vendor unless you're bartering. But assuming you're not doing that, you can actually make a lot of money doing that. Now, let's assume that you're not at that stage yet, that you don't have any of these modules, you're just using the basic ship, and you want to be able to get yourself on your feet. So let me fly out of here, and I'm in a system that has a couple of planets that I have yet to discover. They do have salvageable scrap, but we're not so much worried about that. All right, so now that we're on planet, tip number one that I would recommend is learning how to punch jump. You're gonna notice you'll do, if you hit, it's Q on your keyboards, I imagine it's one of the triggers on a controller, but I'm not entirely sure. But Q on your keyboard, you're gonna notice you do like a melee stun kind of punch. Now, if I'm walking forward and I do it, you'll notice it thrusts you forward. So you actually move pretty quickly when you're doing this move. If you combine that with your jetpack, it's actually one of the best ways to move around in the game when you don't have an upgraded vehicle. So if I do this, just doing that punch jump moves me forward while sprinting enough to where I can cover huge amounts of distance. So it's one of the best ways to traverse the game early on. Tip number two would be to stock up on your commonly used resources. So things like, for example, if I go to my exosuit, things like carbon, sodium, condensed carbon, oxygen, ferrite. These are things that you're constantly going to use. You're going to use these to recharge all of your equipment. You're going to use it to recharge your protection. Like right now, you'll notice because I'm on a cold planet, I'm about halfway down on my hazmat protection. But if I have tons of sodium stockpiled, I don't even have to think about it. So I can just run around the planet, do whatever I want to do, and top that off whenever I need it. And as I'm traveling around, I can just go ahead and gather it. You'll notice, I mean, these are going to be your sodium planes. It's one of the very first things you'll learn in the game. That's these here. You can find them individually. You can find large clusters of them, or some planets. I don't think this one is one of them. Let me see if it is. I don't think it actually is. No, it's not. Oh yeah, it is. So some planets, like this one, will actually have large deposits of sodium. So you can use your terrain manipulator to get like 1,000 to 1,500 in one of these deposits. And it really does that, and carbon. It pays to take the time to go ahead and get those resources stockpiled up so that you can just play the game and you're not constantly getting interrupted by having to run out and grab some resource that you're in an emergency for. So if you're using it all the time, then definitely get a large pile of it so you don't have to think about it. All right, so I went ahead and changed position. The sun went down while I was talking about resources. This will be a little bit easier to describe during the day, this part of it is. So my next tip is going to be to scan creatures to get early game nanites. One thing that you're always starving for, especially early game, is gonna be these right here. These are nanites. You're gonna use these for all kinds of things. It'll do upgrades on all of your technology, like your starships will use those to upgrade your class for them. Your multi-tools will use them to purchase like these analysis visor upgrades. They all cost nanites. You're gonna use nanites for just about everything, and the early game, they can actually be very, very hard to get. However, you'll notice when you're on a planet, like this is the planet we're on right now, like this planet has 7 creatures. If I'm able to discover all 7 of them, I get about 1,700 nanites. That's enough. Like your S-class upgrades, like these things right here, cost somewhere around 500 to 600 nanites usually. Now, I could be off by a little bit there. I don't remember off the top of my head, but that's about what they'll cost. So about 15 to 1600 nanites will get you a full set, because I can do up to 3 upgrades on my scanner. So just doing one planet will get you all 3 of these. So I would definitely, that's my recommendation. There's a lot of different ways to get nanites, but I think the easiest early game way to do it is, as you're exploring, start scanning creatures, and if you're able to find, let me get back to the right page. If you're able to find all of the creatures on one planet, that's a huge chunk of this, and you'll have 10, 15,000 nanites before you even know it, and you're not even worried about it. One thing that can be a little bit difficult is you have to pay attention to diurnal during the day. It tells you how often they're active, so this will give you a clue on where to find them. The one part that can be a little bit difficult are underground. So if you have a rare underground, or even just an uncommon underground, those are going to be caves. So if you're struggling to find those, I've made this mistake before, where if you're just hopping around a cave for like a half an hour or 40 minutes just to find one of these creatures, don't do that. If you're unable to find this pretty quickly on the underground ones, just move on to the next planet. The ones that are flying, the ones that are on the ground, and the ones that are in the oceans are actually relatively easy to get, but don't stress if you can't find the underground ones. Just move on to the next planet and don't even think about it. All right, so branching off of that, my next tip is going to be, when you do finally get some nanites, you have to make decisions. You only have so many of them. You got to make some decisions on what to spend them on. I recommend 2 things first. One is now you can do this in either order. I can't really decide which is more important or least less important. The first thing I usually get are movement system upgrades. This is your jetpack. These are movement system upgrades. They're somewhere, like I said, somewhere around the 500 to 600 nanites each to get an S-class one. Just get S-class. Don't even, if you're scanning planets, you're gonna have plenty of nanites for this. Get the S-class. Don't mess with like B's and C's and A's and stuff like that. Just go to the best stuff. So don't worry about min-maxing these. Just get 4 of them, or just, sorry, get 3 of them, because that's your maximum, and you're gonna notice it's such a huge difference. Like if I were to take these off, like let's say I store these, and now I don't have any upgrades on my jetpack whatsoever. This is my sprinting speed, and this is what it looks like if I'm doing that punch jump. It's not bad, but I mean, it runs out quick. See, my jetpack is already out of fuel. We're sprinting, and then I can wait until the sprint dies down, and then do the jump pack again, and do the jump punch again. But now my jetpack has run out. If I reinstall all of those updates, those upgrades, now it looks like this. My sprint speed lasts a lot longer. Excuse me, I'm getting tongue-tied here. And my jetpack has way more burst, and it lasts longer, and it recharges faster. So I'm just coasting across the surface of this planet, and it's just such a huge quality of the life fix when you start doing that. The other thing I would recommend, like I was saying, would be these scanner modules. Usually you'll get, I would say, 500 to 1,000 or so credits when you scan a creature, normally in game, and a lot less than that when you would scan like a plant or a mineral. If you've upgraded these, now of course this is the part where I needed sunlight, and of course the sun went down by the time I got to it. But let me see if there's something around here that I haven't scanned. So here's a creature here. You'll notice I got 157,000 credits from just scanning that one creature. So if I were to go through this entire planet, and I have all of my upgrades for my scanning module, I can actually make probably about 1 million credits by the time I've scanned all these. The 100,000 is on the low end. Some of the larger creatures, like some of the herbivores or predators, will actually start giving you like 400,000 to 500,000 credits a piece. So it's a way to make huge amounts of money. Like I don't have any credit farms or anything set up. I'm not very far into this playthrough. I've done it maybe about a third of the way through the main quest, and I managed to salvage some modules, and that's as far as I've gotten. And I've even spent some money, and I've got about 96 million credits right now. And that's just from hopping from planet to planet and having these upgrades installed, which will actually increase the payout I get from scanning creatures and from plants and from scanning minerals. All right, so I flew back to the space station because it was actually bothering me a little bit that I didn't have good answers on that. Let me get you an accurate price on some of these modules, just so you know. Obviously, you'll be able to find out for yourself at these vendors, but let me take a look, just so I'm giving you good info. This doesn't count. This is costing way more. That's 11,000, because that's what you'd use to upgrade or customize a ship. These phase beams, yeah, so 552, 589, 616. So yeah, between 500 and 600 nanites is what it's going to cost per S-Class module. Again, skip the A's and the B's, just go straight to S-Class. That would be it. Those are my tips for the early game. If you're following that formula, you should be pretty well set on credits and nanites and upgrades early on, and it'll just make your gameplay that much smoother as you're building up a new save. If you guys have tips of your own, let me know. I genuinely want to know them, because they'll help me out as I'm going along. But again, I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.